By the time you listen to this episode in your podcast feed, unless you're joining us live tonight, week one will officially be over. We have the UNC TCU game on the television right now to officially wrap up week one. So, first weekend of college football in the books. Clinton, how does that make you feel?
Um, a little sad because you wait so long for the thing we love so much to come back. And this opening weekend that gloriously starts on Thursday every year and runs through Monday night, it's over lickety split, man. And then it's done. So it's been a great first weekend of college football. I think we're capping it off very interestingly tonight with Bill Belichick making his NCAA debut. And then, Sonny Dykes trying to rebound TCU off of kind of I guess, a disappointing year last year, given that they were in the Natty the year before that. So it's very interesting to see playing out. But it's been a great week one. I'm sorry that your Irish did not get you the dub last night. I felt your pain through the phone when we were talking. So I'm eager to hear your thoughts on that tonight. But it's been a fantastic day. I don't want to go back to work tomorrow. Ryan, how are you this evening?
Well, we're ahead of schedule, Clinton. They didn't even wait till week two to rip my soul out of my body this year. So, good times.
I felt I thought it was great last night when I texted you if you're ready for the game. You're like, I'm over at my neighbor's house right now. And I'm like, are you watching it there? And you're like, no, I can't let those people see this side of me.
No, I like don't even. I mean, we're like friendly with them, but it's not like if we're ever out in the backyard at the same time, I'll chat with them. But like they all have kids, so we're just like
Gotcha.
I'm not like gonna go hang out with them or anything like that. But they texted Sam on I think it was like Friday. They're like, hey everyone. It was like a group chat. They're like, hey, we're having a cookout. Everyone's welcome to come over. And I'm like, we should do this, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And then I saw one of them walking the dog on Sunday morning. He's like, hey, hope to see you guys. And I'm like, yeah, we'll be there. And I don't think there was enthusiasm conveyed in my voice. He's like, oh, no pressure. If not, I'm like, no, Rob, it's fine. We'll be there. But yeah, I just like it was probably good for me because like I do not handle these games well. Like I've come to learn that about myself. Like my heart rate was like 110 for the entire first quarter. Not great. I don't have the Apple Watch anymore though, so it doesn't like yell at me when my heart rate is that high. It
Dude, when
just is
you
like,
posted that screenshot there, that spike at 8 p.m.
yeah. I'm like, well, that sounds about right.
I woke up this morning and I looked at Lee and I was like, honey, what did you think of me yesterday? Because we're all loyal fans to our team, right? In a game, you're not going to get nervous about like grambling or something like that. But I feel like I felt pretty chill during the Ohio State Texas game, and I don't know if it was just me understanding now that the playoff is expanded with 12 teams that game is not a nail in your coffin week one, and that you still have time if you lose that game, especially being a high profile matchup, Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Miami. If Miami can actually get back on track, that's a playoff caliber team with a playoff caliber quarterback. So that those losses don't kill you. But I felt like I stayed pretty calm given to me thinking back how I felt to every single playoff game last year where my heart was just racing. I didn't know when I would calm down until those games were over, and then it took me 2 hours after to go to sleep. But I felt
Yeah,
pretty chill
I stayed up till 1 a.m. I'm not gonna lie. I could not
last
go to
night.
sleep. Yeah, I just
Oh
was
man,
doom scrolling Twitter.
that's not. At least you didn't go down and kick each of the coordinators in their asses. Which, when we break this game down, that's one of the
Oh,
questions I have
fucking
for you.
A.
So, but yeah,
It's I definitively know that the NSA does not read my text messages because I think I definitely threatened to commit at least 3 war crimes via text message to various people on
oh my
Sunday night.
god,
So,
Elon doesn't give a shit about that.
well, via text message, not via
Oh,
Twitter.
text message. Sorry, I thought you said Twitter. So he doesn't care unless you
Yeah,
threaten him, and then he
I
blocks your account.
100% threatened to violate the Geneva Convention. So,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
no agents at the door today, so we're good. I mean, I guess we can start there. We'll
Yeah,
just get
let's
rip the
kick it
band-aid
off.
off. There's something poetic, Clinton, in a sinisterly fucked up way of a game ending on a last-second field goal in Hard Rock Stadium, 27-24,
It didn't go in your favor this
with
time.
Notre Dame on the other side of the coin. If you live under a rock or you're not a Penn State or Notre Dame fan, that was the final score of the Penn State Notre Dame game last year. Ended basically the same way, save for a backbreaking interception thrown by the losing team quarterback. On the drive before, there was a backbreaking interception by the losing team quarterback in this game, but I had so many thoughts at the time, and when I woke up this morning, it's not that I didn't care. It's not that I'm chill or anything like that, but it's just kind of like meh. That's kind of how I feel about it because there's something to be said that you come out, you played a terrible game. Like they did not play a good game at all. Like it wasn't a well called game. They got their ass kicked on both lines of scrimmage. You lost the turnover battle 2-0, and you played a team that is going to be contending for an ACC title and probably a playoff spot, and lost by 3 points on the road when your starting quarterback was throwing his first collegiate passes. Like that's not like if you told me before the game that Notre Dame is going to have one sack, two tackles for a loss, and lose the turnover battle 2-0, tell me the final score, I would have been something like Miami 31, Notre Dame 14. Like if you gave me those exact circumstances, they didn't deserve to win the game. Like they fought back hard, they played great in the fourth quarter, but whether it was questionable play calling on both sides of the ball, couple drops by the wide receivers, a fumble by a wide receiver, a tip drill interception, not creating holes on the line of scrimmage, miscommunications between offensive linemen, not getting any push with your four-man rush, and then not deciding until like late in the third quarter that you were going to blitz a quarterback who threw 13 interceptions last year. Like it was just a weird game. It felt very much like almost like the Texas A&M game last year where their game plan was we're not going to do anything to make a mistake. We're going to play this conservative and just trust that we're going to come out ahead. But the thing that you didn't really factor in with that is the quarterback that you were playing was significantly better than the one you faced last year in Connor Wegman. And that was kind of the variable in this game because Carson Beck played a really good game. I mean, I would argue that the touchdown pass he threw at the end of the second quarter was a horrendous decision, and it should have either been picked off or it should have gotten CJ Daniels killed if Adon Schuler had his head out of his ass on that play. But, I mean, other than that, he really didn't make a bad decision in this game. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. He took care of the ball. When Notre Dame did happen to get pressure, which was, according to Pro Football Focus, on 4 of his 32 dropbacks, that's a horrendous pressure rate. He did a good job of navigating up the pocket and scrambling for yards, keeping Miami on schedule. And that was going to be a key in this game for Notre Dame on the defensive side of the ball is get them off schedule, force them into, obvious passing situations. And they did that a couple times in this game. I think the graphic came up. I don't remember when it was in the third quarter, but there was a certain point at the game when Miami was 4 of 9 on third down conversions, and their average distance to go was almost 8 yards. They were converting almost 50% of their third downs with the average distance to go being third and long. So, I mean, you can't win a game like that. Like, you just can't win a game like that. They were too passive. They weren't aggressive enough. And here you are. You're 0-1, and you're facing a must-win game in 2 weeks.
Yeah, first of all, let's start where I was impressed. CJ Carr obviously has a lot to learn. He's a first-time starting quarterback. But one thing he has is he's tough as nails, man. The way he worked to extend drives, you heard the announcers multiple times like, this looks like the playbook with Riley Leonard from last year.
Yeah, so, I did not like that.
Carr looked great, but the problem is, in which a couple Notre Dame fans pointed out on the X, is you can't do that all season long. He's going to get eviscerated at some point because he took some hard shots, man.
He's not a runner.
Shots.
He's not a runner.
Yeah, like
he looks like no one's ever taught him how to slide before.
Yeah, and I get it. I appreciate the willingness to put your body on the line to win your team a game. However, you're going to need that body to last you 11 more games, if not longer, to get through this season. So I really loved Carr. I thought the story they talked about was it with his mom was pretty unique as well. I was a bit baffled, and this is where I wanted to ask you about the offensive play calling, was the not getting the ball into Jeremiah Love's hands enough early. And that was surprising to me because if I were to talk about a key to the game, which we saw in the Ohio State game, we saw to an extent with Texas as well, you got a first time or a newer starting quarterback, you want to lean on the run game to help stabilize the offense. And I didn't feel like Notre Dame utilized that well enough. I feel like they did late. They started getting Love involved in the pass game. But just your thoughts on not utilizing him as much early when he's arguably the best running back in America.
I always thought that this was a Brian Kelly thing, and now I'm starting to think that it might be a Mike Denbrock thing where it's you're too smart for your own good, and you try to outsmart yourself, and your game plan is, oh, well, they're going to try to take away our running game, so we're going to, spread the ball out and try to get the ball in the quarterback's hands, let him get the ball out wide. And what ends up happening is you take your own best player out of the game. Like, you needed to force Miami to take Jeremiah Love out of this game, and you played right into their hands. Like, you can do the quick, short stuff, and I think, like, I don't remember who, maybe 3 or 4 different people said it. I don't remember who I was listening to who said it, but they basically said, like, the first drive was good. Like, your game plan needs to be to get CJ Carr in the game to kind of calm the nerves a little bit, and it felt like the rest of the game's game plan was you were calling it to get him comfortable and get him into the game. And all of a sudden, it's midway through the third quarter, and you're down 21-7. It's like, oh shit, we got to do something here. And I mean, it was kind of the same thing as like the national title game too, where people, like, some of the commentary after the fact was, why didn't they get Jeremiah Love the ball more? It's like, well, they had an 18-play first drive, and then their next 3 drives in the first half were 3 plays, and 1 play kneel down. And that was kind of what happened in this game after the first drive. They had a couple of 3 and outs. They had the fumble on the first play of the drive, and then the touchdown drive that they scored. I don't remember if that was more of a Price drive or a Love drive, but there just wasn't a lot of opportunity at that point in the game. And then Miami takes the opening drive of the second half, 7.5 minutes, and gets a touchdown, and all of a sudden you're down 14 points. So at that point, you kind of got to be a little bit more aggressive with the pass game there. But I just don't like how uncreative they were with getting him the ball in the pass game. Because if you want to, like, he's a guy, you need to get him 20 touches a game. Like, I know that they pitched him on, look, we're not going to overuse you. We're going to leave you tread on your tires for the NFL. But when you're playing these big games, he needs to touch the ball 20 to 25 times. And that doesn't mean he needs 20 to 25 rushes, because Price played well in this game too. Like, he had 6 carries, 45 yards, I think, but then he had a fumble at the goal line, and then I don't think he played after that. So he kind of took himself out of the game on that one by not taking care of the football. But if you're getting Love 5-6 catches a game, that's great, but it can't be on these swing dump passes. Like, get him a screen. You ran 10 wide receiver screens in this game, 2 tight end screens. Throw a halfback screen out there. Get him in space and let him make somebody miss. Yep. Give the ball to your best player. And I don't know. That seemed to be a situation where, like, first drive of the game, sure, you want to get Carr comfortable, but getting him comfortable, you would think, is, hey, give him a couple passes to Jeremiah Love out wide too, and get him into the game as well.
Yep, just get him in a rhythm. And then your initial impression, again, it's only week 1, game 1. Jeff and I talked about this yesterday. A team is not who they're going to be in week 1 when it comes to week 8, right? Like, Notre Dame's going to keep developing and getting better. But what was your impression of Chris Ash in game 1 as defensive coordinator?
So, like, during the game, I was not having a good time with it. And then I was kind of thinking about it this morning, walking the dog. I'm like, everyone's opinion on Chris Ash from a Notre Dame fan perspective is going to be skewed because of the last 2 years of Al Golden. But people were having the same discussion about Al Golden after game 1 of his first season. Like, they wanted to crucify that man after the Ohio State game when he called the double safety blitz that led to the game-winning touchdown. Like, everyone hated Al Golden that first year. And I thought the play calling, I thought the play calling was way too conservative. Like, you have a veteran defense. I know you're young at a couple spots and you lost some guys from last year's team, but you have a lot of guys who know what they're doing. Like, they can handle the more complex stuff. But I think for him, it's going to take him a minute to kind of figure out what personnel works best for him and who he wants on the field in certain situations. And that felt very much like a like a bend don't break game plan. Like, let's keep the ball in front of us. Let's not make a catastrophic mistake as we're kind of trying to get our feet wet here and figure out what works best. And I mean, they tightened down a little bit in the later in the second half, not on that first drive of the second half. That was not a good defensive series, but I don't know how much of that was Notre Dame sending a little bit more pressure versus Miami just kind of shutting down a little bit and trying to turtle and get out of there. Probably a little bit of both, maybe a little bit more Miami turtling. But then, I mean, last drive of the game, you have a chance to get off the field and get your team the ball back with a chance to win the game, and they could not get Miami off the field until Miami basically just surrendered and said, we're going to try to kick a 48-yard field goal here. So, I mean, it was a pretty underwhelming performance. Like I said, they had 2 tackles for a loss. They had 1 sack. I think they only had 2 passes defended. There was not enough havoc plays for a defense that led the nation in turnovers forced last year, and that has to change. Like that has to change against Texas A&M. Like you can't turn the ball over. But I mean, if you do turn the ball over, you need your defense to step up and make a play. A veteran defense, a ton of playmakers on it, and none of them really did anything in this game. And that was the second most surprising thing to me in this game. The most surprising thing was the offensive line was awful, horrendous. Like the offensive line was so bad that I came out of this game having offensive line questions that I did not think that I was going to have this year. And that's the part of this that has me concerned long term, because I think like if you came out of this game thinking, okay, the quarterback made some mistakes, which he did, but you can live with that, or it's going to take some time for the defense to get itself sorted out. Okay, I get that, but this was supposed to be the best offensive line in the country, and again, I get Pro Football Focus grades are not gospel and use them at your own risk, but Notre Dame's pass blocking grade in this game was 41.7, I think. It was their lowest pass blocking grade since 2018.
Oh my.
That's bad. That's bad. You have a veteran offensive line now. Like, this was supposed to be what it looked like last year when you had 6 combined starts going into Kyle Field. The whole line played together last year. Like, you switched out the right guard, but everything else was the same. And you got manhandled throughout the entire game. Like, they didn't get push at all. They didn't protect the quarterback. That last series was an abomination. Like, none of that. I get, like, Carr's going to get killed for that grounding, the second grounding penalty he took. There was going to be a sack either way. Like, he had no chance there. And then a play later, he had no chance there either. So you need the veteran offensive line to keep your quarterback clean, and they did not do a good job of that in this game. They did not do a good job opening up running lanes, and that's the part that I think has me kind of like, that was, I think, the one thing that could make me come out of that game questioning what Notre Dame's ultimate ceiling would be this year. And maybe it turns out that Miami has the best defensive line in college football. It would not surprise me. I mean, if we're having a conversation in 6 months that Ruben Bain is riding the Abdul Carter trajectory, would not be surprised at all. But as things stand right now, like, that is the one thing that I'm pretty concerned about with this team.
Yeah. I want to know your thoughts real quick. If we're on a 1 to 10 meter of your confidence, panic, whatever you want to call it, heading into week 2, about this being a very important game to win. Notre Dame.
Well, I don't know how, like, what am I rating?
Do you think if they lose it, they're out of the playoff? So
No.
that puts your panic at like 10 out of 10?
I wouldn't go quite that far, because there's still ammo on the schedule. Like, Pitt should be pretty good. USC should be pretty good. Arkansas, I don't know if they'll be pretty good,
Maybe.
but they could be.
Talon Green is a challenge.
Yep. I think there's enough ammo on the schedule. And I mean, they play 2 G5 teams. One is Navy and one is Boise State, who Boise State all of a sudden doesn't look super daunting anymore either. But I think there's enough ammo on the schedule that, especially because like last year when they lost to Northern Illinois, that was the kind of loss that is like an anchor around your neck that's unforgivable. You don't get the benefit of the doubt if you lose another game, because then it kind of reinforces what everyone saw on that day. This loss is one, like, it's the same thing with the Texas loss to Ohio State. That's going to be a loss that when November comes around, people are going to look at it. And if Miami rides the trajectory that we think that they are, and again, This was a team that went 10-2 last year, right? This wasn't a bad football team last year. They were on the playoff periphery, and even if they're marginally improved on defense compared to a year ago, they're probably going to be a playoff team this year.
Um,
So it's that kind of loss. You when that first playoff ranking comes out, people are going to look at it and be like, yeah, whatever it happens. But then it's almost like not that they're going to hand wave it away, but it's almost like they're going to hand wave it away.
Yeah.
If you lose to Texas A&M, I mean, your margin for error is gone. I'm still not. Everything that I listened to was like, oh yeah, Notre Dame's fine at 10-2. I'm not sure that I'm 100% there yet. It's going to depend on what happens with the rest of the schedule. You'll need some help, but I think from a vibes standpoint, this is as close to a must-win game as you can get, because if you start 0-2 and it's your two biggest games, then, and not that the doubt's going to creep into the locker room or anything, but I think there's going to be a lot of anxious people, and then your margin for error is gone, and it's kind of like where you were after week 2 last year, where it's like, well, now you got to be perfect the rest of the season, and that's just a really thin line to walk, particularly with a team that lost a ton of senior veteran leadership from last year.
Certainly. Listen, man, it's all still in front of you. You guys get a bye week before you play Texas A&M, which is great. The problem is
That's the worst. That's the worst part is now I got to sit here and fucking watch other people.
It's better for the team, not you. But Texas A&M gets another game next week, I believe. So they're going to have 2 games of tune-up. Notre Dame at least gets a 1-week break to, heal whatever wounds you may have from week 1. Hopefully nothing major, but it'll be an interesting week too. You get them at home at least, so that should be a big confidence boost. All right, my man, you want to go Utah, UCLA, or Colorado State, Washington next?
Yeah, let's talk UCLA real quick, because I think this was another fascinating game on Saturday night, because maybe not as much from the UCLA perspective. Well, it was certainly interesting from the UCLA perspective, because I think there's going to be a lot of people, namely Tennessee fans, who hate watch UCLA this year because of Nico, and he's kind of become the poster child for this NIL era, right? Like, he's the guy who had the big high school NIL deal that was leaked to The Athletic. He's the guy who had the public dispute with his team over money, and they told him to kick rocks, and he's like, well, fine, I'm going to take my ball and go back home. And it was about as bad of a debut as you could have thought up here. I mean, Utah's a good team. They weren't fantastic last year, but now they finally have some certainty at the quarterback position, and Devin Dampier was fantastic in this game. And, I mean, the rushing game for Utah as a whole was outstanding. They ran for 5.3 yards per carry, 286 yards on the ground, and UCLA just did not have a lot of answers in this game. Nico was not particularly great. He did not have really any help in this one. 11 for 22, 136 yards. He had a touchdown. He had a pick. He also had 13 carries for 47 yards. They pretty much built the entire ship out of him in this one. The other players other than Nico, they had 15 carries for 37 yards. So this was a problem for UCLA last year. They could not run the ball. They could not run the ball in this game, and they really struggled passing the ball too in this one.
Well, that's what we talked about in the preview show, right? And even in our fall preview with Mike Regalado, UCLA had so much momentum going at the end of last year, and then it's a huge turnover. Staff, players, your running back goes to SMU. Nico comes in and brings promise to you, but what do you have around Nico? I remember Mike told us, what did he say? They think UCLA could have a top 8 receiving unit, maybe top 5 receiving unit in the Big Ten, and not playing like that, you're sure as hell not going to.
Nope.
Like, Nico could go be a superstar, and if he doesn't get any help from that receiving, it's not going to matter. Like, if you're going to have drops, inconsistencies, and routes, it's not going to matter. And I think, unfortunately, Ryan, this is what Nico's going to have to face all year, is the offense is going to have to be everything him. Mm-hmm. And we saw last year at Tennessee, he's not that guy. He's not going to be that guy every single game. He might find some ways to make some magic happen. He's a super tough player to get UCLA by in a few games, but he doesn't have enough around him to help get over those humps. And this is another thing we talked about in the pregame or the preview show on Thursday night was UCLA was pretty stout in run D last year.
Yep.
They got ran over, man.
Yep.
In addition to your yards per carry and total yardage, you said they gave up 4 rushing touchdowns and led by Dampier, who was fantastic, not only on the ground, but in the air. 21 of 25, Ryan. A
Mm-hmm.
mobile quarterback. 21 of 25, 206, 2 TDs. And listen, Utah might be challenging for the Big 12 championship this year now that they have Dampier. This is something new for Kyle Whittingham, right? Like you lived so long with quarterbacks who weren't overly mobile, and this dynamic at least, this is a game changer for Utah. We're not a Pac 12 podcast, but I am super intrigued by the Utes through the rest of this season in a conference that is as wide open as anything and see where they go. But for UCLA, man, I'm kind of where we were last year when we were heading into the Hawaii game. I'm feeling bottom of the barrel for UCLA this year because I don't see any upside or promise for them. It's not an easy schedule in the Big Ten for them. Like, I think you're going to stress. Really, Mike told us his ceiling was 8 wins. I think my ceiling's you better do your best to find a way to bowl eligibility if that's even possible.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we'll learn a lot this weekend because if they don't beat UNLV, they're screwed. You're not winning.
And that's
5
not going to be
games in
easy.
the Big Ten.
UNLV looked much better this past week than what they did week 1 or
Well,
week
and-
0, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Right. And like you talk about the schedule as a whole in the Big Ten, you start with Northwestern, which is not I mean, Preston Stone's going to have to do something a little different.
Dude, that's
in that
going to
game.
be all-time low ratings for that game.
But you look at some of these toss-up games. I mean, Michigan State was fine. I think I'd still classify that as, I mean, a slight Michigan State lean, but they didn't exactly do anything against Western Michigan that has me buying them any more than I was already. Maryland looked fantastic. I get it was against FAU, but Maryland looked really freaking good
Do
on
you feel that
Saturday.
much more confident of UCLA over an FAU right now?
No, and
Coming
that's
off
the
of that?
and that's the other point too is I think Maryland and I mean UCLA and FAU are probably on a similar trajectory right now, honestly. But I mean, you got Indiana. We know what Indiana is. Nebraska. We know what Nebraska is. Then Ohio State, Washington, USC. Those are all really good offenses. So I know that UCLA overachieved last year, and they kind of had us. I don't know if they caught us off guard is the right phrasing, but I mean they surprised in the Big Ten, and it's really looking like they're going to have to surprise. One thing I did see on the Twitter, I think today that I found kind of interesting is obviously the comparisons between Nico and Joey Aguilar are going to be present all season, but given how that kind of played out, where you had Joey Aguilar, he was your guy in the portal. He spent all spring with you, and then you just kind of usurped him there at the end of spring practice and said, "Sorry, this is our guy now." What do you think that did to the psyche of this team?
To UCLA?
Yeah,
Honestly, I feel like they probably thought it was an upgrade because you were getting Nico, a guy who came off of a playoff run. You're like, okay, we got to deal with the fact we have to flip our quarterback situation. But this guy's supposedly a supreme talent. Now, again, we talked about the money. He took a pay cut to come here. So maybe that plays in the psyche of the team. Like, you know why he left Tennessee. And now he's coming back here. Honestly, Ryan, here's my mild hot take that I don't know we'll ever know the truth to. I think when Nico went into the portal, obviously he was looking to go wherever would take him, but I think his first thought was going back home and USC is going to take me. And I'm going to go with Lincoln Riley. And then USC had no interest. And then he's like, well, fuck. Now I'm screwed.
yeah.
Like, nobody else has interest in me. Hey, Deshaun Foster might want me. Let's contact that. Like, that would be my thought. So why wouldn't you want to go back home to Cali and play for the quarterback whisperer, right? With Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane as your wide receivers and Tate McRae as your tight end. Now you're playing at UCLA with guys who wouldn't even be a wide receiver 4 or 5 on a lot of teams.
Did you just call him Tate McRae?
Did I? Did I screw that up?
Yeah, it's Luke McRae.
Luke McRae. My bad.
Tate
Anyways,
McRae is a singer.
If you're is that a country singer?
I think she's
I don't
pop.
know.
I don't technically
Anyways,
know.
if you go flip it to the other side and you're Joey Aguilar, that might have been like God's gift to you. Like, oh, well, Nico's gone. I don't know where I'm going to go. Hey, Tennessee called. I'm going to go run their offense.
Because the way I look at it is they brought in this guy, and he was like in the shit with you through all of spring practice, right? Like he was out there putting in the work, getting comfortable in the system, and then after all of that, your coach comes in and says, "Hey, here's this guy that we just dropped $1.2 million on. He's going to be our starting quarterback now." And I'm sure some of them, like especially some of the SoCal guys, probably knew him from high school football. But if you didn't know him before, it's like, what the hell? I thought this was our guy. Why are you bringing this other guy in? And I don't know that locker rooms are necessarily that delicate of an ecosystem, but I just wonder like what that did to the psyche of a football team, especially like as a coach, if you're sitting there hammering, all day, every day, like, hard work, be there for your brothers. And then you just say, this guy's actually not good enough. We're going to try to take this guy after he put in, 16 weeks of work throughout spring ball. I just wonder what effect that had on the team.
But
Maybe
you'll have to
none.
readjust because you didn't get the spring reps.
No, for sure. For sure. Like you
So
don't have the chemistry and you're behind the eight ball already. But I mean, we'll never get the answer to that. But I was just kind of curious if you had any thoughts on that. And then the
we
other
go
side
north.
are,
Go north to a more positive
well,
quarterback
more positive quarterback,
scenario.
but not necessarily. I mean, it was a more positive game. But this was a close one, man. I mean, it was 21-21 midway through the third quarter. Washington's defense did not look the best in the first half. I fell asleep at halftime of this. I could not make it up to watch the whole thing. But, I mean, Colorado State was punching back in the first half against them. And then Washington locked in the second part of the second half. Jonah Coleman was an absolute monster in this game. 24 carries, 177 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Almost 300 yards for Washington on the ground in this one as a team, 4 rushing touchdowns total. Damon Williams did a really good job at taking care of the football. And, well, that's not true. He didn't throw any interceptions, but he did fumble. But he ran for 68 yards on 13 carries. Again, did not throw any interceptions, 226 yards through the air. The connection with Denzel Boston is alive and well in this one. I don't know if this changes your perception on Washington at all, Clinton. I mean, this combined with Ohio State looking like a unit over the weekend, I'm definitely leaning away from Washington being a playoff team now. I still think they have a fair amount that they need to clean up defensively before they get to Big Ten play. But at least through one weekend, the offense is as advertised.
Yeah, I think for me, looking at Washington, my absolute ceiling was probably a 10-2 for them, and maybe sneaking into the playoff. But more realistically, 8-4, 9-3. But I tell you what, they may have the best trio of quarterback, wide receiver, running back, maybe in the Big Ten. I know people want to fight you on that, but just how good Jonah Coleman is,
No, I'd
and
agree
how
with
good
that. No,
Denzel
I
Boston
definitely
is.
agree with that because, like, it's one of those things where it's like, well, Jeremiah Smith accounts for a lot, but also Damon Williams is really freaking good.
Yeah.
And Jonah Coleman, I don't know from like an NFL perspective if he has the ceiling of maybe like a Nick Singleton does, but I mean, as far as a college running back, man, he is right there
beast.
with him. Yeah.
He's a truck. And, he doesn't have, and I mean this no disrespect to him because he'd obviously run me over 10 million times. He doesn't look like he has the most athletic build, but he does everything. And they were able to lean on him. He put up the big stats. It's not like Damon didn't put up big stats either, but Damon putting in a rushing ability to this offense, obviously he has to learn to be able to get down. You and I talked about that in the first half of the game. He is a slight human being.
Yeah.
He will get demolished through a season if he's going to take a ton of hits. So, again, just like CJ Carr, we said, get out of bounds, get down. In the key moments, if you got to fight for it, I'm all for it. But lessen the hits on him. He's a small guy. I'm not concerned about the Washington offense at all. I think they're going to score a lot on a lot of people. We'll see when Ohio State comes to town here in a few weeks how they do against them. I believe they have the Apple Cup next week, right? For week 2?
No,
Or is
they
that 2 weeks
play
from now?
UC Davis. They have a bye, and then the Apple Cup is on the 20th.
No, their bye is before Ohio State. I promise you.
According to this, their bye is on the 13th that I'm looking at right now. Their bye is on the 13th, and then they play Washington State on the 20th.
I thought they had a bye before Ohio State. I know Ohio State has a bye before them. Anyways, kind of a moot point. Regardless, defense are going to have to tune up. By the time Ohio State comes into Washington, they are going to be rolling a lot better on offense. Ryan Day is not going to be afraid to pull punches with Julian saying this time the way they held back against Texas. So having not been on them as the playoff horse, I don't want you to lose your faith in them just after week one, because it is week one, man. Like it'll be fine. You are correct. The video game must have been wrong then, because I am almost certain I played the Apple Cup. I had a bye week, and then I played Ohio State. So the game must have had it backwards then.
Maybe.
Very interesting. Anyways, I think the Huskies are still going to be a super fun team to watch this year, and they're going to give teams some challenges, especially when Ohio State and Oregon both come to Washington to play.
Speaking of one more point, I forgot to say this about CJ Carr. I think the insistence on running quarterback power with him was insane, but I don't think anything illustrates the difference between him and Riley Leonard more. Did you see his first touchdown pass?
No, I was putting no one to bed.
When he backyard footballed it. You didn't
when
see
he
it.
scrambled around. Yeah, he ran like 15 yards backwards and then ran forward and threw it to a wide open receiver. Yes,
you can call a guy like sneaky athletic. That boy has no agility whatsoever. His feet were so slow on that. And it was impressive that he was still able to get out there. But like the way that Riley Leonard last year would just like tuck and bolt away from a defender and leave him in the dust was a thing to behold. You are not going to see that from CJ Carr this year. He's not very fleet of foot. He might be athletic, but he is not fleet of foot.
Yeah, certainly.
So that kind of wraps up the Midwest week one here. Clinton has this is kind of in lieu of dudes of the week. Clinton has given the propensity of the Big Ten to be a run first league. Traditionally, he has his version of the running back of the week that we are going to do here.
So if you guys hung out with us last year, this award and this song only got paired to Caleb Johnson because he was just an absolute phenom last year, in addition to my love of him on my fantasy team. So this year we bring it back, and we contemplated, should we give it to one guy? And I'm thinking, like, no, let's make it a little bit of an award. People love sounds in our show, so I want to keep the ROLLIN sound. And let's make it a weekly award to the running back who has the best performance. And we already talked about Jonah Coleman, and damn, it's hard to not go with Jonah Coleman. But I think who we're going to give this to this week goes to new Michigan running back, Justice Haynes, who had 16 carries, 159 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And I would encourage you guys, if you didn't check in the Michigan game, I don't blame you. It was a lopsided matchup in theory. Haynes has got some explosive power behind him, and when he gets into the open field, that boy can boogie. And if you know Michigan, what their motto has been through Harbaugh and through these past, especially their playoff runs, and last year, they're a run-dominant team. And if Haynes can be this reliable piece to allow Underwood to kind of settle in, I'm not saying Michigan's a playoff team, but they're going to be a tough out, man, because they're going to be able to control the clock. Now, again, if he's breaking off 50, 60-yard TD runs, the series is over relatively quickly. But in a game when they know they need to get 4 yards here, 5 yards here, take a chunk play, and just keep your offense off the field, they're going to be really hard to beat. And I think Haynes is going to be super important, and we'll get to this game Thursday in Oklahoma this coming week. Is they're going to need to rely on him and Marshall a lot, because I think Underwood's going to be really challenged by Venable's defenses. But official week one, ROLLIN ground player of the week, Justice Haynes, Michigan.
Yeah, one of my friends from work texted me at the end of that game. He was very surprised that Haynes went before Marshall in our fantasy draft. He's like, it's definitely going to be more Marshall. And then he texted me. He's like, okay, I was wrong about Haynes.
Yeah, Haynes went, I think, a couple picks right, or at least in the round. I was like, I'm going to take him. And then he went. I was like, son of a... I wanted a ton of him, and that would have been a great fantasy run to have.
At least your first-round pick had more than one carry this weekend.
It's true, homie, but it's not like Cade Klubnik did it worth a shit for me either against LSU's defense.
Yeah, you took him before Jeremiah Smith, too. That's embarrassing.
Well, listen, I feel typically fantasy football, if you get a super flex league or dual quarterback league, you got to get a top quarterback, and I trust that Klubnik will be fine in the remainder of the season because their schedule is not hard. But you didn't instill a lot of confidence in me in week one when actually, outside of Smith, I was contemplating, and I'm blanking on his name. Is it Desmond Reed, the running back for Pitt,
I
is who I was contemplating taking it to.
think he had a punt return touchdown this weekend.
Yeah, so I wasn't loving fantasy football college week one, but let's head into three surprises, and so you can get away from my sorrows of my first week loss.
Well, one of my surprises, Clinton, is the quarterback I took in the last round, Jalen Daniels, had 28 points. So there you go.
Did you play him?
Yep.
Nice.
I benched Josh Hoover.
Is that actually one of your true surprises?
No.
Okay, it's like you told me didn't need to be directly Big Ten, but it needed a Big Ten relation. I'm like,
no.
How the hell does Jalen Daniels relate to the Big Ten?
Jalen Daniels. Well, I mean,
He played Northwestern the past 2 years.
In theory, I could tangentially make a Jalen Daniels connecting to the Big Ten case, which I'm kind of going to do with the ACC here. My first surprise of the weekend was we talk about these bid thieves in other leagues, right? Like in heading into the 12-team playoff, it was widely assumed that the ACC was more often than not going to be a 1, maybe 2 bid league. The Big 10 was going to, or the Big 12 was going to be a 1, maybe 2 bid league. And then the rest of it was going to be consumed by the SEC and the Big 10. Well, after one weekend, obviously Ohio State had the marquee win of the weekend, but the next 2 best wins of the weekend, Clinton, were, well, I guess LSU too, but I digress. Florida State and Miami have certainly enunciated themselves in the conversation here. And if we're assuming that Clemson is going to maintain its status as a contender in the ACC, which again, you touched on the schedule, should be the case, we might be in a situation here where the ACC gets 3 bids. And maybe that's a little bit of an overreaction to what Florida State did, but they whooped Alabama. And in due time, kind of like with Notre Dame and Miami, we will learn in due time if that was more of a case of Alabama being weak, soft, and not as good as was projected, or maybe Florida State's just that good this year. It's something that could potentially work itself out because Florida State and Miami play each other. Clemson plays Florida State. I'm even throwing Louisville and SMU in this. I think SMU, we can't discount them given the run that they made last year, but
Georgia Tech.
Yep, Georgia Tech could potentially be in that as well. Louisville can definitely be in it. That offense looked, I mean, I get it was Eastern Kentucky, but, you know, Miller Moss, he's got weapons out wide. This is going to be a fun race in the ACC here, man. And I was looking at Miami's schedule. So they play an FCS team this week. Right after that, their next month and a half is South Florida, who could potentially be in that G5 playoff bid conversation with how they've looked so far. Then they play Florida. Then they have a bye. Then they have Florida State. Then they have a bye. That's a weird bye structure that they have in their schedule. But then after that bye, they have Louisville, Stanford, and SMU. That is a pretty daunting schedule there. And if they can make it through that with one loss, they're probably going to be in the ACC title game. Opposite, maybe
in the playoff.
In the playoff, yeah. I mean, we talked about Miami last year, their non-conference schedule, because Florida was not super good, kind of took a poo. You beat Notre Dame and you go 10-2 in the ACC, you have that non-conference ammunition to be an at-large playoff team, regardless of what happens in your conference.
Absolutely.
You know, Florida State, they play Clemson. They also play Florida. They got Pitt on their schedule. Clemson gets SMU, Florida State, South Carolina. SMU, outside of Clemson and Miami, they play Louisville, Baylor, and TCU, who's looking pretty good tonight. I mean, there's a lot of, I don't think that we can discount the ACC as an afterthought. There's a lot of ammunition on some of these good team schedules that if there's 3 10-2 plus teams in the ACC, I think we might see all of them in the playoff.
Yeah, unless they sabotage themselves and then 9-3 themselves out of
the
playoff.
I think that's a situation where it's like last year with the SEC, you have the 9-3 Mageddon and everyone's whining about how this team needs to be and that team needs to be. And I don't think that's going to apply to the ACC, but I don't think it's a situation where 10-2 Miami gets left out because the rest of their schedule is horrendous.
Yeah. I was certainly a surprise with Florida State putting such a beat down on Alabama. My first surprise is actually the aforementioned first round pick. You said Mekhi Hughes and his utilization in week one. What do you have? One carry?
1 carry for 2 yards.
Ultra concerning, given that the entire expectation was all season that we were led to believe was Mekhi Hughes' RB1. He didn't leave Tulane, which is a run-heavy offense after we saw them run all over the Wildcats, to come to Oregon to not be essentially thinking he's RB1. At least 1B, because Noah Whittington's there. And he was like RB, felt like 12 in this game. 12 guys recorded a carry. Remember, guys, if you go back to our reaction show, we talked about that. And the fact that Hughes got 1 carry is pretty concerning to me. And so it's certainly a story we're going to have to follow, because we envisioned him not only being a dynamic piece to this offense, but a reliable piece to this offense with his experience as they continue to build Dante Moore up to the next step. So that's surprise number 1 for me.
My second surprise, and this is probably not a surprise to you, but definitely a little bit to maybe surprise for me isn't the right word, but given kind of how I saw the Big Ten shaking out this year, Ohio State's title defense is alive and well, and I think right now the conversation has to be them versus the field in terms of national title contenders. There, other than maybe LSU, maybe Miami, which is kind of weird to say, I don't know that there's anything that I saw over the weekend that has me concerned, would have me concerned if I was an Ohio State fan. And maybe I wouldn't even be concerned with Miami and LSU at this point anyway. But they had the most impressive win of the weekend. That defense looks like it is going to be just as terrifying as it was last year. And now they have a fair amount of runway to kind of get the offense sorted out, which, again, might not even need to be sorted out how depending on how much you're believing that was just a game plan thing versus not wanting to overdo things with the quarterback thing. But I mean, I struggle to see, again, I'm going to keep making the crack that I can't pick them to beat Michigan until they show me that they can do it. But at least from an on-paper perspective, there's not a team on this schedule, and that includes Penn State, that I can see beating them right now.
Yeah, that is
because the same thing with Penn State. Like you can't say Penn State is going to beat Ohio State until they do it
at the shoe as well.
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time Penn State beat Ohio State in the shoe? I can't answer that for you. Because not the James Franklin era.
Well, because the last time they did it was whiteout game, right?
Did they beat Ohio State?
Yeah.
It was Urban Meyer and Franklin. Yeah. So the year Penn State won the Big Ten championship with Franklin. So that leads me into my second surprise, Ryan, was not that I didn't think Matt Patricia wouldn't be successful. It was the immediate defensive success in week 1.
For sure.
Again, Arch Manning, I'm not raining down on you, buddy. I'm raining down and looking at Paul Feinbaum and ESPN and all those knuckleheads for putting all this pressure on you. But Patricia was so successful week 1 in shutting down Texas. Like, I get it. Arch missed some passes, and that's going to kind of allude into my third surprise here. But Ohio State's defense had him seeing ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of Matt Patricia's design. And that's more of the surprise to me, is he's utilizing NFL concepts, and how the defense picked it up by week 1 shows me how great of a teacher he is at simplifying these things for them to under. That is a chunky man running down that sideline.
Dude, he's
running
thick.
back.
He is thick.
He's thick with 3 Ks. Thick.
And he just outran everyone.
Bill Belichick looks like I should have stayed retired. Patricia's taking these NFL concepts and he has them readily to be utilized by week 1, but it took Jim Knowles, with essentially the same set of talented players, 3 years to get his system right. Something there with the teaching and the relatability, which I've heard all offseason about Matt Patricia, that he's an excellent teacher, he's patient, and he relates to these kids, and they have clearly bonded to him already. And we also just may need to understand, like, as good as Knowles is at the college level, Matt Patricia won Super Bowls at the NFL level, man. Mm-hmm. He won Super Bowls and ran a defense against the best talent in the world. And now he gets essentially one of the teams that hosts the best talent in college football at every position, and he gets to run a defense with them. Like, it's a daunting task for every team to come in. Sark said it himself, like, the looks that they were giving them were just elite and hard to figure out. Well, guess what? Patricia runs a multi-look defense. He's not going to come out in a base half the time with you. He is going to change stuff every drive to manipulate your offense. And it was a thing of beauty to watch. And I look forward to, if you haven't seen the Grambling video of them dancing as a team, Ryan, I cannot wait to see these boys come into the shoe on Saturday and be absolutely lost. But impressive for Matt Patricia. Didn't surprise me that he wouldn't be good, but surprised me that he was that good week one.
Matt Patricia was so good that it had me thinking that Chris Ash was going to do something similar. I'm like, oh, this guy just came from the NFL. He's going to be great.
Yeah. Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend.
Fuck, you sent me that thing. I'm like, well, this was fun while it lasted.
Corso goes 6 for 6 on his last picks ever. Absolutely balled out, man.
Maybe this is going to be something similar to what you had given the comment you just made about Arch, but my last surprise, the thing, I don't know if this was necessarily a surprise, I guess it was kind of a surprise, is the young quarterbacks answered in the affirmative. Bryce Underwood, really, again, I get it was New Mexico, but I mean, he showed off his live arm. He made good decisions with the football, 21 of 31, 251 yards and a touchdown. I know he played last year, and started a couple games at the end of the year, but first season as the full-time starter, Damon Williams, we talked about him a little bit on this show. He was fantastic. We talked a lot about Sayin on Saturday night. The numbers don't pop off the sheet at you, but he did a great job not making mistakes. He hit the one shot throw that he needed to make, and he did a good job playing within the game. Drake Lindsay, we talked about him on Saturday night. He had a fantastic game for Minnesota. And then I was really impressed with CJ Carr last night. He could have wilted when Miami went up 21-7 midway through the third quarter, and then Notre Dame goes 3 and out on the next drive. I'm like, well, here we go. This is about to get ugly. And he fought back, and that's the kind of performance that gets buy-in from your teammates, right? Like, there was a tough quarterback competition. He might have won it. He might not have won it. It, like, kind of the reporting coming out was some people were surprised that he was named the starter, and, Marcus Freeman said it was just a gut decision, and that was the gut decision, that he showed you why on that one. And, your ability to respond to throwing an interception that could have ended the game. You come out, 5 minutes left down by a touchdown, and you lead a touchdown drive that ends with you running through a safety. Well, he didn't run through a safety, but absorbing contact from a safety as you cross the goal line. That's the stuff that gets buy-in from your teammates. And then coming out after the game immediately saying, I didn't play well enough. I need to be better. Like, that's a guy who's going to do some stuff, and it's got me feeling maybe it's not this year for them, but next year for sure. Like, this is going to be a guy who does some stuff for Notre Dame.
Yeah. Mine kind of went the other way for my third surprise. Overarching, it was Arch Manning. What a play on words there by me.
Overarching Manning.
But also you could throw Ty Simpson into that category. The two quarterbacks new to their teams, they both reside in the SEC, and they both reside on teams who lost. But looking at Arch, I just said earlier, Feinbaum and these guys like overhyped him, calling him a best SEC quarterback prospect since Tim Tebow, whatever he was saying. You put a lot on the kid's shoulders before he ever got a first road start in a hostile environment. And from what I heard, the Ohio State beat reporters I follow and listen to their podcast, they said that was the loudest the shoe's ever been. So whatever Ross Bjork is doing, the last two home games of the shoe have just, the environment is completely different. Hey, Fox, give us a night game, please. Anyways, let's move on to the next thing. I want to talk about maybe how poor Arch actually played. So according to ESPN's research, I'm going to quote this article here. Manning was 0 for 5 on passes of 5 or more yards downfield over the first 3 quarters. He also finished with an off-target rate, Ryan, of 37%, which is the worst game in that department by any Texas quarterback over the past 10 years. He obviously telegraphed his first interception. He telegraphed another pass that was an overturned interception. Maybe he had the first game nerves. Maybe it was the hostile environment. Maybe he's had a bad day. Maybe Arch just comes out and he just isn't good. I don't know. It's hard to see him failing given that he has Sarkisian, an offensive genius, running his offense. But, I'm still on the side of Arch. Just everybody put too much hype on him, and now he's getting rained on, and everyone's like, he sucks. But there was a point, Ryan, that Arch was no longer the betting Heisman favorite in the start of the second half.
Yeah,
That's how
he's like
much people have been off of him now.
tied for ninth now.
Yes. What a fall from grace. And again, not that this kid put himself there, but that the media drove that. The media drove that. And for Arch, I mean, realistically, maybe he goes 2 years, but he just, you guys set him up for failure. And he had a tough game. He played in a tough environment. You got to give Ohio State credit too, but I didn't realize just looking, and obviously I rewatched. I went home to my parents today and got to rewatch some of the game with my dad, which was really fun. Arch's stats were pretty poor until that fourth quarter and his like last 2 drives, and then he got some great passes in. But other than that, it was pretty rough. So I was a bit surprised by how poor his actual in-game performance was.
So I don't remember who said this when I heard this over. It was at some point over the last 2.5 years. But basically, what was said about Arch was it was someone who covered recruiting, and they were talking to a scout, and what the scout basically said was he's a good quarterback prospect. Like, he's certainly worthy of like high 4, low 5-star status. But this talk about him being a generational quarterback talent is entirely driven because of his last name. Like,
Yeah.
he's a good quarterback prospect. He deserves the praise that he's getting. But like, this talk of him being like Trevor Lawrence generational is 100% getting blown out of proportion because of the last name. And it just sets the kid up for failure. Like, it's not his fault that he has that last name. It's not his fault that everyone wants to cling to that last name and be like, oh, he's got the. He didn't make himself a 5-star. Like, he did not go to 24/7 and say, you're going to make me the #1 quarterback prospect in America. They did that themselves. So that's on the adults in the room who are maybe letting their, preconceived biases, or I don't remember how that's supposed to be phrased. Their subconscious biases cloud their judgment on his overall evaluation. But yeah, man, it was not a super impressive debut, and maybe he'll be fine, but that certainly was not a encouraging first start for him.
Yeah, multiple podcasts I've listened to and articles I've read. If his name was Arch like Williamson or something, you wouldn't have heard a damn thing about him. It's the Manning name. And again, I believe he also did not play against the toughest talent in Louisiana in high school. So he lit him up, but it wasn't like he was playing Texas 5A ball, right? Like against these teams, or even, Ohio has a great D1 scene, D2 scene here. I believe it's Marion Local, who's D5, who was winning and kicked D2 teams' asses because they're so good. But, I hope Arch has a great season, especially now that he's done with Ohio State. I don't have to worry about that other than maybe in the playoff again if Ohio State can keep a good season together and make it there. But yeah, I was a bit surprised on his performance, so that'll be something I continue to watch as the season goes on, as his development.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us this evening. We'll be back with you guys Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, picking week 2. Clinton, it is a lowly slate of week 2 games, which means there's going to be some nonsense that happens and someone's going to get shocked. Couple big games in the Big Ten slate. We get the Cy-Hawk game. That is the big noon game on Saturday. And then the primetime game is Michigan at Oklahoma. I am super excited for that one.
Me too,
We're going to learn a lot about a couple of potentially playoff bubble teams in that one. So looking forward to picking those games with you guys.
We can't forget this Thursday. Ryan, have your bets ready so we can use Ryan's betting sound on Thursday night. Because let's be honest, we're going to take about 2 seconds to talk about Ohio State Grambling. We're going to any of these big games or big teams playing a FCS or lesser opponent, we're not taking 10 minutes to talk about.
No.
So we'll talk Ryan's bets to fill that time in with for you guys.
Gonna have to dig deep, find some stuff for you guys. Thank you for joining us.
What do you think's our game of the week? We got to talk about that. We got 2 good ones that you just mentioned.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to percolate. I might flip a coin on it, to be honest with you. We'll see you guys Thursday night, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Follow us on the socials at ITPCFB, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram. Subscribe in your podcast feed inside the Pylon of Midwest College Football Podcast. Make sure you're following the show so you can get notified as soon as these episodes drop. Drop a rating and review while you're there, and maybe we'll send you a sticker. Send a screenshot of your review, and I'll send you a sticker. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week. We'll see you Thursday.
See you.